I always thought my life was perfect. A loving family, a fiancé who said I was the one for him, a successful career that was just beginning. I trusted my sister more than anyone. We shared all our secrets, dreamed about the future, and always supported each other. I had no idea that one day she would be the cause of my destruction. It all started with an accident. I don't remember that day very well. Just flashes, the sharp screech of tires, headlights blinding my eyes, the sound of impact, deafening, as if someone had switched off the sound in the world. And then darkness. I woke up in a hospital. The room was white cold. The air smelled of antiseptics. I tried to move, and pain shot through my body. "Wake up," I heard the nurse's voice. She quickly left the room, and a few minutes later the doctor came in. He said something. That I was a miracle survivor. That I'd been in a coma for months. That I was lucky. I stared at him, not understanding. If I survived, where's my family? Where's my fiancé? Why didn't anyone come to me? Where is my sister? I whispered, gathering my strength. The doctor froze, and then his gaze changed. Like he didn't know how to tell me the truth. "Your family paid for the treatment, but He hesitated. "They didn't come back for you." It took me a moment to realize what he meant. I was still alive, but my family acted as if I didn't exist. What had happened in the months I'd been in a coma? Why did they abandon me? And most importantly, what are they hiding? I could not understand what was happening. The doctor said that my family had paid for the treatment but had not come back for me. How is that possible? Where's my sister? Where's my fiancé? Why I isn't anyone sitting by my bedside, holding my hand. I tried to sit up, but the pain in my body was unbearable. "You need more time to recover," the doctor said softly. But I didn't care about that. I cared about one thing. I grabbed his hand, my fingers trembling. How long had I been here? He inhaled slowly. 6 months. My breath caught. 6 months. 6 months they hadn't even tried to see me. When the nurse left, I reached for my phone, which was on the nightstand. It was old, dead. "Could you charge it?" I asked the nurse who had just entered the room. She nodded and handed me the charger. As the phone booted up, I prayed that I would find a single message. But when it switched on, I saw nothing. Not a single call. Not one message. Not a single missed call from family. My fingers trembled as I entered my sister's number. I knew it by heart. The ringback tone stretched into eternity. Then suddenly, this number was no longer in service. I froze. It was a mistake. I dialed it again. It was the same recording again. I went to social media. Her page was gone. It was like she never existed. Fear flared in my chest. What had happened in those 6 months? I typed my sister's name into the search engine. And then, I saw her picture. She was alive. She was happy. And she didn't even know I was looking at her. But that wasn't the worst part. In the picture, she was holding my fiancé's hand. And the caption under the photo made me dizzy. "My new life begins today. Ring." She married him. My sister. To my fiancé. While I was in a coma. The world fell apart in front of me. I was dead to her. But she didn't know I was back. And I wasn't going to stand by and watch it happen. I was going to get my life back. Whatever it took. I couldn't sit in the hospital any longer. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. My sister. My fiancé. They were celebrating their new life while I lay in a coma, forgotten by everyone. But now I was back. And I needed to face the truth. I walked out of the hospital that same day. The nurse tried to talk me out of it, but I was adamant. I couldn't stay here while someone was living my life. The world seemed different. Louder. Brighter. Like I'd stepped out of the darkness into an unfamiliar reality. I hailed a taxi and gave the address of my house. The place where I lived before the accident. I didn't know what I'd find there, but I needed to know the truth. When the car pulled up to the house, I saw something strange. There was a new lock on the door, and the mailbox had a different name on it. My name wasn't there. I slowly got out of the car. The house looked just as I remembered it, but it wasn't mine anymore. I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. My heart was pounding frantically in my chest. A few seconds passed, then another. The door opened. My sister stood in front of me. She froze, her face pale. Her eyes widened, and for a second she couldn't breathe. I smiled. Hi, sis. You weren't expecting to see me, were you? She flinched. You can't be here. I tilted my head to the side. Why not? Because you told everyone I was dead? She swallowed, but didn't answer. I took a step forward. What did you do while I was gone? She gripped the doorknob tighter. Go away. You don't belong here anymore. I felt the rage building inside me. She hadn't just taken my life. She thought I would just disappear. But I wasn't going to leave. I'm back. And I'm taking my life back. My sister stood in front of me, her hand clutching the doorknob like she was trying to keep me outside her new life. I looked at her and I wasn't scared. I was disgusted. How could anyone do that? You can't be here, she repeated. You're dead. I grinned. So you really did tell everyone I was gone? She swallowed nervously. I didn't know you were alive. You didn't? I took a step forward. And you didn't even check. I looked her straight in the eye, and she knew I wouldn't believe a word she said. A voice came from behind her. Who are you talking to? I recognized that voice immediately. My ex-fiancé. I clenched my fists. The next second he appeared in the doorway, his face contorted with shock. What? How? He couldn't get a word out. I looked at him coldly. You didn't even try to find me? He opened his mouth, but his sister grabbed his hand sharply. Don't listen to her. She's just... I laughed. Loud. Evil. You seriously think you can just kick me out like that? She turned pale. You don't know everything. I crossed my arms over my chest. You don't? Then explain it to me. How come I was lying in a coma and you were marrying my fiancé? Silence. She couldn't answer. I stepped closer. You stole my life. Her hands were shaking. You don't understand. Oh, I understand everything. I looked round the hallway. My paintings hung on the wall. On the table was my favorite vase. You could smell my perfume in the air. She hadn't even tried to change this house. She just appropriated it. I looked into her eyes again. But now I'm back. And I'm taking it all back. My sister continued to stand in the doorway, her face whiter than the wall behind her. I could see her fingers trembling as she struggled to find the words. But what could she say? That it was all an accident? That she didn't mean to take my life? I didn't believe a word she said, and I wasn't going to leave without answers. You stole everything I had, I said, not looking away. My home, my fiancé, my life. She swallowed, but didn't say anything. I took a step forward. How far have you come, sister? She took a step back. You don't understand. So explain. She shook her head. You shouldn't have come back. I felt anger boiling up inside me. What did you say? She looked at me with frightened eyes. You shouldn't have come back, she whispered. It's already decided. My fists clenched. Resolved by who? By you. She looked away. You were in a coma. We didn't know what to do. And you decided the best solution was to just get rid of me? I stepped forward, forcing her to look me in the eye. You knew I was alive, didn't you? She froze. And that was enough. I saw the answer in her eyes. I took a deep breath, trying to contain myself. Where are my papers? She frowned. What papers? My birth certificate. My passport. Where are they? She froze. I narrowed my eyes. You destroyed them, didn't you? Silence. And then, she suddenly slammed the door in my face. I stood in front of the locked door, breathing hard and deep. She was scared, and that meant only one thing. She was hiding something much bigger. And I was going to find out. I stood in front of the door, clenching my fists. She slammed it shut in front of me. My own sister. The woman I trusted more than anyone. Now she didn't even try to hide the fact that she was afraid of me. Because she knew I wouldn't stop. I turned round and headed for the nearest bank. I had to check my accounts. I needed to figure out what she had done with my life. As I walked in, the manager approached me. I smiled, trying to look confident. I need to check my account. I handed him my card. He inserted it into the system. His fingers ran across the keypad. And then he frowned. I'm sorry, but your account is inactive. I froze. What? He looked at me sympathetically. The system indicated that the account holder had passed away. The world shook. I died. Had it canceled my accounts? I gritted my teeth, trying to remain calm. Could you check the name of the owner? The manager ran a quick glance across the screen. Your name is no longer registered in our system. I swallowed but continued. Who owns the account now? He looked away. I'm not allowed to divulge such information. I already knew the answer. My sister embezzled everything. She didn't just take my money. She destroyed my name. I walked out of the bank, struggling to control my breathing. She thought she was rid of me. She thought I wouldn't come back. But she was wrong. Now I knew what to do. And when I was done with her, she would regret ever deciding to take my life. I was sitting in the cheap motel I checked into after I'd realized I didn't exist anymore. I was nothing. No ID. No money. No home. But I wasn't going to stay in the shadows. I was going to get my life back. The first thing I did was pull out my phone and re-enter my sister's name into the search engine. I had to find out who she had become. Everything that was mine now belonged to her. I scrolled through pictures on social media. Happy pictures. Expensive restaurants. Trips to Paris, London, Dubai. She was living the life that was meant for me. But one photo made me freeze. She was standing in front of a building with a sign that read, Wilson Legal Counseling. The caption read, officially changed my last name. Now a new chapter of my life begins. I clutched the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. She had changed her last name. To be me. To become the only daughter in our family. To erase me. I took a deep breath, suppressing the anger that came with it. This was her first major miscalculation. Now I knew where to find her. I knew which lawyer she was working with, which meant I had a chance to find out what documents she'd forged. And I was going to take that chance. The sister thought she'd won, but the game was just beginning. I sat in the motel, studying every detail of the photograph. Wilson's legal aid. This is where my sister altered documents, where she erased my name, where she made me cease to exist. But now I knew where to find her, and I knew how to strike first. The next day, I put on my sunglasses, put my hair in a bun, and headed to Wilson's office. When I walked in, the woman behind the counter looked at me with mild irritation. Are you here for an appointment? Do you have an appointment? I nodded. Yes. I need help changing some paperwork. She looked at the calendar. All the lawyers are busy, but Mr. Wilson can see you in half an hour. I'll wait. When I was invited into the office, I tried to look confident. Behind the desk sat an older man with a cold stare. Do you want to change the documents? I nodded. Yes. But first I need counseling. He folded his hands on the table. What type of documents are we talking about? I pretended to hesitate. Well, I leaned in closer and lowered my voice. I heard that you helped a friend of mine to change her name and cancel her old documents. His face remained impenetrable. I don't disclose client information. I nodded, pretending to understand. Of course. It's just that she said it only took you a few days. Very quickly. I saw him tense up a little. It was a hint of illegal work. I continued. She said she didn't have to worry about the past anymore. Just erased it and started a new life. I watched his reaction carefully. He was still silent, but his fingers were visibly twitching. I paused, then added carelessly, Oh yes, her name is. I looked straight into his eyes. Sophie. Sophie Grayson. That was my sister's new name. He froze. I saw his face change. He knew who I was talking about, and that meant I was on the right track. Are you sure you want to erase the past? He finally spoke. I smiled. Oh yes. I want it gone. Just like my sister wanted to erase me. But now it was my turn to play by her rules. I walked out of Wilson's office with my heart racing. He knew who I was talking about. He was helping my sister. But now he knew me. I had no doubt he would tell her about our conversation. And that was exactly what I wanted. Now she'd know I was there for her. That her game was over. I settled into a nearby cafe, chose a window seat. From here I could see the entrance to the legal aid office. I ordered a coffee and waited. A little over half an hour passed and I saw her. Sophie. No. My sister. She got out of the car and hurried into the building. I saw her looking around nervously, her fingers clenched into fists. She was worried. I took a sip of coffee, savoring this moment. Can you feel it, sis? That first prick of fear? You thought you were rid of me forever. You thought I was gone. But I'm here. And I'm coming for you. About 20 minutes passed, and she walked out of the office. Her steps were quick, sharp. She was checking something on her phone. She was probably looking for me. I smiled. You won't find me unless I want you to. When she got into the car, I took out my phone and entered a new number. I bought a new SIM card this morning. She couldn't recognize the number. I dialed it. She answered on the second ring. Hello. I didn't say anything. She said it again, annoyed. Who is this? I still didn't say anything. She was getting angry. Who are you? I allowed myself a slight smile. I only said 3 words. Hello, sister. Silence. She froze. I could hear her breathing. I heard her breathing quicken. It's impossible, her voice trailed off. I leaned closer to the phone and whispered. I'm back. I dropped the call, leaving her in fear. Now she knew. Now she understood. Now the game was for real. My sister was afraid. I could hear it in her breathing, in the way her voice trembled through the tube as she realized the impossible. I was alive, and I was back. But it wasn't enough. I needed to destroy her from the inside out. Just as she had destroyed me, I was going to enter her life, become her nightmare, and make her repent for every lie she told. The first step was to find a way to get close to her. I researched her social media, her social circle, her work. She was a PR consultant, helping businessmen and celebrities create the perfect image, which meant that her biggest fear is scandal. She's afraid of her secrets coming out, and that's exactly what I was going to use. I bought a new phone. I created a fake LinkedIn profile and listed myself as a PR professional with international experience. I used a name no one knew. Lily Harper. New number. A new email. A new identity. I wrote an email to my sister's company, introducing myself as a new crisis management specialist. Hello, I am interested in working for your company. I'm sure my skills could be useful to your business. Let's meet. The reply came 2 hours later. Thank you for your interest. Let's meet tomorrow at our office at 3 p.m. I smiled. I was invited for an interview. At the company my sister ran. She would let me into her life on her own. And wouldn't even recognize me. Until it was too late. I entered the office at exactly 1500 hours. An assistant met me and escorted me to the conference room. Miss Grayson would be here shortly. I smiled. She has no idea that her new employee is the one she's been trying to erase from her life. A few minutes later, the door opened and she walked in. My sister. She looked perfect. Expensive suit, impeccable hair. But I could see her fear. Eyes reddened. Pale face. She'd been up all night. I knew what she was thinking. She was afraid her past had come back for her. But when she saw me, her face remained impassive. She didn't recognize me. Of course I'd changed. I'd lost weight. My hair was a different color now. But most of all, she didn't expect to see me here. Have a seat, Miss Harper, she said. I've had a look at your CV. It's impressive. I sat down cross-legged. Thank you. I'm sure I'll be a great asset to your company. She smiled, but her fingers clenched nervously. I could see her struggling with anxiety. She sensed something was wrong. I acted calm, answering her questions. But then, I looked her straight in the eye and said, By the way, you have a very familiar face. She tensed up. What? I smiled. Do you have a sister? She froze. No. Do you? I leaned closer. That's a shame. I once had a sister, but she betrayed me. She stood up abruptly, her eyes petrified. What did you say? I stood up too, looking straight at her. You know what I said, Sophie. I said her new name with contempt. She understood, her face contorted in horror. No, it's impossible. I smiled. You tried to destroy me, but I came back. She gasped. You should be dead? I leaned closer and whispered. My mistake came out. She was shaking. Her world was beginning to crumble. But this was just the beginning. My sister was trembling. I saw her fingers clench into fists, her breathing hitch, panic run across her face. She hadn't expected to see me. She didn't expect me to come back. But most importantly, she didn't expect me to know everything. You can't be here, her voice trailed off. I tilted my head to the side, savoring this moment. But I am. And you know what the funny thing is? I'm officially employed by your company. She sobbed. Why did you come? Why? I laughed. You took my life, my name, my money, my fiancé. Did you think everything went smoothly? She flinched. I can explain everything. I frowned. Oh, really? Then explain to me why you told everyone I was dead? Why you erased my papers? Why did you marry my fiancé while I was in a coma? She looked at me in silence. Do you know what's going to happen now? She froze. I took a step forward, feeling a cold rage flare up inside. Now you're going to lose everything. She ran around the room. No, I'll fix it. I'll get you your money back. I'll help you recover your documents. I grinned. You think I need the money? She blinked. What? I leaned closer and whispered. I need you to feel what I felt. She shook her head. Please. You can't. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. There was a recording. Our conversation. Do you know how many people have heard that tape? She stopped breathing. No. Yes. Now everyone knows who you are. She fell to her knees, covering her face with her hands. Her life was falling apart right in front of her eyes. You chose this path, sister, I said coldly. She was sobbing, but I didn't care. I turned round and walked towards the exit. I stopped at the door and threw one last thing at her. You're nothing now. And I left. I got my life back. And she lost everything. My sister was on her knees, sobbing. She tried to say something, to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. I looked at her without pity. She didn't pity me when she erased my name. She didn't pity me when she took my life. She didn't pity me when she married my fiancé. And now I don't feel sorry for her. Please. I didn't mean to, she sobbed. I crossed my arms over my chest, watching her world crumble. You didn't mean to? I leaned closer. You just happened to steal my life? She trembled. I thought, you're not coming back. I laughed. You thought I was dead? But now you'll know what it means to be dead to society. She gasped in horror. You can't. I smiled. I already did. I sent the tape of her confession to all the media. She couldn't hide anymore. The company she built on my life had turned on her. Her clients canceled their contracts. Her fiancé found out the truth and left her. Everything she had was falling apart before her eyes. I can fix this, she screamed, trying to grab my hand. I yanked it away. No. I can fix it, but you won't be a part of my life anymore. Her face contorted with despair. You can't just forget me. I'm your sister. I looked at her coldly. No. I don't have a sister anymore. I turned round and walked away. She screamed my name. But to me, she was a ghost of the past. She died the day she betrayed me. Now I had my life. Now I could start over. Without her. Forever. I stood in front of the mirror, looking at my reflection. This time I saw myself. Not a shadow of the past. Not a victim. A woman who had won. I had my name back. I had recovered my identity, and now I officially existed again. My sister had lost everything. Her money, her job, her status. Her name was destroyed. So were her lies. So was her life built on my pain. I could have felt sorry for her. I could have given her a chance to make things right. But she would never do the same for me. So I left her where she ended up through her own fault, in ruins. I packed my bags and left the motel. This time I was going home. To my home. To my life. To the place they tried to erase me from. But I was back. And now no one else can take away what is mine.